Okay, let's do this. We're gonna felt some soap and then needle felt a design on top. It's gonna be freaking delightful. So first you're gonna gather all of your white wool and then take off maybe like a little dollop like so, just for highlights or repairs if you need to open up your soap and pull out your needle if it accidentally breaks off in it. Maybe a little more, a couple of dollops. There we go. And then we're gonna organize our wool so that it felts really nicely. I like to use quite a bit of wool for the encasement. I typically want it to be approximately 2 inches or so on either edge of the soap if I put it in the middle, with sort of a piled up bit in the middle, because what you're going to do is you're going to fold over the edges here, and that will kind of build up this side of the soap. So we want this side to be equivalent. Okay, I now have my nylon. It's all ready to go, just up to the knee level situation. And what we're gonna do first is we are going to fold down the top and then the bottom, and we want it to be pretty tight. And then the edge, like so. And we kind of want these ends to be wispy so that you don't have a hard edge when you're felting it together. That'll kind of turn into a hard edge too, so we can kind of loosen that up a little bit maybe. All right, then I'm holding this tightly. I'm grabbing my nylon, and I'm gonna put the nylon over the soap like so that it's nice and tight around the soap. Now I'm gonna gather my hot and cold bowls of water. And look, we've pre-prepared our bowls. Okay, so we want this to be very hot, and this is our hot bowl. And that way it helps the soap, the wool to shrink around the soap. And then we'll be alternating back and forth between the hot and the cold, okay? So the first thing you're gonna do, if you wanna tie this off, you can. And it is kind of helpful. I tend not to, but you just don't wanna get any wool caught up in this end piece here, otherwise you'll have sort of a tail on your soap. So voila, we're gonna start in the hot, and we're gonna just dunk her in and start to saturate the wool. And I just kind of hold it in here for a while and keep squeezing, and we'll keep kind of squishing it under the water so that the fibers of the wool start to entangle. So we'll just kind of keep doing that until it starts to feel like a piece of textile, like it's a loose, spongy felt. So this sometimes takes a while. And I'm gonna start to sort of gently rub it, kind of encourage those fibers to snug up and intermingle, get busy with each other, if you will. And then now they're sort of starting to kind of feel a little bit more like a cohesive unit. So I'm gonna start to rub a little to get them really enmeshed a bit more. And then squeeze them under here some more, and you're starting to see the suds are forming. And squeezing out the water, alternating between pushing it in to help the fibers intermingle, and then pulling them out and squishing out the water, maybe give it a little rubbed out. Suds up. Ooh, yeah. Now you can really see it's kind of starting to look like felt. And this water isn't that hot. I should have made it a bit hotter. But it's still working.
He wore a three-piece, she wore a prom dress. Their paths had crossed, but they'd not been properly introduced. She liked his blue suit, he liked her blue eyes. Her heart was kick drum, his heart was snare drum on every beat. Her name was Enemy, his name was Robot. Her name was Enemy, his name was Robot. Her name was Enemy.
So once it feels pretty uniform into a single textile or cohesive piece that is wrapped around the soap, we're gonna pull this baby out of the nylon. So we're pulling out the soap, and you can see it's starting to look like a single piece of fabric almost. You can see it's still pretty loose around the soap, and that there are these wrinkles where I've been kind of squeezing, and that's normal. If you get the water hot enough, it will keep shrinking, and you're just gonna keep rubbing like so, alternating again back and forth between kind of that hot plunge and the cold plunge, just like you would do at a hot springs. You need to do this until it looks good, until you're satisfied. Technically, if you wanted to start felting right now, you could. And then as you use the felted soap, it will shrink around the bar, and it won't harm the needle felting that you're doing on top. So if you're done now, then great, go ahead and stop. But I like to go for a while until it's really, really nice and tight around the bar of soap. It just provides sort of a nicer surface in the end once everything dries. I tend to like to felt with needles right away because the soap inside of the wool is currently kind of soft and wet, and you are less likely to break a needle. And that, I would say, is the biggest learning curve about needle felting in soap. We are going to start with the tulip because it is by far the easiest shape. And if you've never felted before, I don't recommend trying the strawberry or the poppy. They're a little bit more complicated, though you could probably get away with it if you have kind of an eye for things. But so I am going to do the tulip because I think it's the simplest, and probably the most fun, or the most likely you'll be able to sort of come up with something that, you know, looks like the final product. Okay, so you're gonna pull off, you have plenty of felt, but pull off maybe like a strawberry sized piece of the red. And I usually kind of ball it up into sort of a suggestion of the shape, and I kind of put it on the soap and eyeball it. It is not going to be this big, but it's only going to shrink down a little bit with the felting. So you kind of want it to be placed on the soap in approximately the place that you want it to end up. So sort of for the tulip, it's kind of up in that top half of the soap, and then grab your needles and start jabbing away. Okay, so in the kits, we have these lovely little wooden needle holders. So it's going to come to you like this. You're going to pull out this little piece and then take your needle and you're going to slide it into a little piece so that the slightly smaller side goes in to the tool. And then be careful, you're going to press that in, and voila, you have this cute little needle holder. Okay, so I'm going to start with that bigger needle, although honestly you can use whatever needle at any time. Mostly I just gave everybody a couple of different needles just in case there was breakage. So I typically start with like a jab or two, boop 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 boop, and then now that's kind of anchored into the soap, I'm going to start to shape my outside, so the edges here, right? So I kind of go with these first, the little tips, and start to shape it. Okay, so once you're obsessed like I am with felting, you might get a few other tools. I like to have a few on hand so that I can use different needles, and there are more than just the triangular kind that I gave you guys in the kits. But once you have the obsession, once it takes hold, you're going to want to get maybe a few more of these little holders so that you can easily switch out your needle shape and size. And I'm just going to keep going for a while here. So yellow. So we're going to do the little yellow bits here and here. And what I do for any sort of detail, you really don't need that much, but I'm going to just pull off a little piece of this yellow, and I'm going to kind of pull it apart and then give it a twirl like that ish. And then kind of place it where I want it to go and get my needle and start to position it where I want it. Lovely. We can pull this guy up here, and anytime you're pulling off a piece of wool, you want to avoid cutting it because that blunt end is not the look you're going for. You want it to be wispy and lovely. Oops. And blend nicely. Okay, so that's how I start here, and then I'm going to kind of come in at the edges again, pushing it in the same direction that or pulling it out in the same direction I pushed it in. And voila. Kind of going in at the side to make it look a little bit more neat and narrow. And yeah, putting that down, going up the other side. Oh, she's looking good. Yeah. All right, keep at it. I'm gonna take a look actually at oh yeah, there's like a little yellow over the top part too, I see right there. So I'm gonna grab a little yellow, got the end tail piece from before. Voila. Get that sucker in there. Yeah, I'm liking this. A little bit bigger than the one that I did for the demo. I need a little more yellow. I like it. Usually when I'm working on a felting project, I am sitting on the couch and maybe we've got the wood stove going or what have you. It's so soothing and pleasant. And I'll just put a towel on my lap and kind of bunch it up. But for the purpose of this video, we're at the table. A little bit more formal, if you will. Okay. Keep on jabbing away, little jabberwockies. Ooh, yeah, okay. I'm going to go with the smaller needle now. And then speed up my jab. If you choose to go this fast, the risk of breakage, unless you have a real good technique, increases unsurprisingly. So either be incredibly vigilant about just going straight in and straight out, or slow yourself down, or both. I like to come in all angles. I just make sure that I'm consistent with the angle. Okay. And it also helps that these needles are really sharp. They're super high quality, so yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Let's give ourselves a stem. Same sort of idea as before. We've got these long sort of narrow bits that we did with the yellow. We're gonna do the same thing with the stem. Voila. And you're gonna kind of start at the top there, and then if you have this little extra piece here, you can just kind of fold it over and push it in. Okay, curve it around. Voila. Let's get this one going. I think that was the, I think that was actually I started with the smaller needle. Let me get the bigger needle again. Doesn't really matter that much, frankly. But it's nice to have an option if you're feeling like you really want to be meticulous. I'm just kind of doing it rough and dirty today. Yep. Haven't broken a needle. There's lots of good needles. Oh yeah, baby. Okay. I'm actually going to go back to the bigger needle a little bit and then kind of just push it in a little bit more. If I go right down the middle, I can start to kind of develop a groove. I like to do that with the leaves a lot of the time. But for this little stem, it's gonna just pull the fibers down a little more and make it a bit more narrow. I like it. All right, voila. So let's take a peek again. How are we looking? Pretty good. If you really feel like eyeballing it is too much of a challenge, I know a lot of people, when they first start felting, they will use cookie cutters, and you could potentially cut out, well, no, it's just a little bit too small, but you could cut out a piece of cardboard and then lay that little stencil on top of your soap and use that. But I find it's just more fun to not be 100% exact. And because it's so forgiving and you can pull it out and put it back in and sort of shape it by doing this here, I don't recommend it. This is not as fun. You know, you want to Bob Ross it. You want your happy little tulip. And you don't want your tulip to look exactly like somebody else's. Okay, voila. Now we are going to take, let's see, I think I want a little bit more felt than that, but we're going to grab that green felt, the darker one, and then kind of bunch it up in the middle, maybe roll the ends a tad. And I have been getting really into having a little bit of like a relief situation with my felt, so that I have kind of a raised leaf, and I like the feel of that. I like the look of it. So I tend to use quite a lot of felt, but you don't have to do that. You could use far less. It would probably be a little easier, but it's up to you. So let's go back to just the single leaf, and then I'm going to kind of shape it into what I want it to look like, and coming down at the base there, and we're going to give it a nice little curl up at the top, and yeah, she's looking cute. I'm going to start at the top up there and further shape it, kind of pulling in the edges a bit, but here we are, and come down again kind of at the edges and then down the middle. And with leaves, I really like to give it that nice seam down the middle, so I tend to do that first, really. And it anchors into the soap, and then we can spend a little bit more time kind of pulling maybe this edge in for a bit more curve there, like so, and then jabbing it in. Yeah, I think that's a nice shape. Okay, you got it. Again, down the middle, reinforce that seam, or the, let's call the stem maybe. The stem? The vein, that's it. The leaf's vein, central vein, just kind of, all right. Voila, voila, voila. Okay, ooh, cute. Yeah, cute. Different from this one. Not quite as curvy outy, but really nice, pretty. Okay, other side. Oops, sorry about that. Other side. This is too big at the bottom. We're just gonna bunch it up. Okay. All right, oh, look, I started the base this time. Fun. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm right-handed, so I like to shift the soap. There's my tip. Kind of doing that sort of a movement. And then again down the vein, central line. And it's okay that it's kind of bigger like this for now, because we can keep sort of shaping it, gently pulling it in that top part, shaping the edge of the leaf. All right, keep it up. I'm gonna keep felting until it's nice and smooth. But really, if you wanted to stop here, you could. And the thing about this soap is that when you take it into the shower with you, and you start to lather it up and kind of rub it down, this will continue to felt up. So technically, you could really stop here. I prefer to keep going because it's therapeutic for me. Apparently, I have issues. And then I also like to add little wisps of light green, so you get that kind of nice shadow effect. But this dark green has a nice mottled look to it, so you're going to get that heritage, you know, green mix that makes it look really fancy. Boop-a-doop-beep-boop that. Now, we're going to take a teeny weens, like a really little bit of this sort of yellowy green. I'm going to get a little more of this bright green, so we get kind of a mix of all those colors. Ooh, that's way too much. teeny, teeny, teeny little bit. You still want that darker green to come through, and you want just that little wisp of highlight. And I'm going to kind of shape it so that it's above the central vein of the leaf, as if the light were shining down and just catching that side of the leaf. Needs a little bit more dimension, isn't that nice? Yeah, cool. Same to the other side, and then we're practically done. Yeah, all right. A little too much there, and just pull it off. So forgiving. So delightful. If you do get a needle stuck, you're gonna kind of pull it apart with your fingers. First and foremost, if you lose a needle, actually, let me back up. Remember where it is so you know where to open the soap. Deal with it right away. Don't wait until later, because otherwise you'll be opening it up and digging through your soap, and then you won't have much soap to work with in the end. Feel where the needle is. Take your fingers and just open up that soap right there. Maybe grab your pliers or your tweezers and help it to kind of just open up that one little part. And then once you see the little needle head, you have that opening, you can pluck the little darling out, and then take your piece of white that you saved from earlier, and then just needle felt that onto the top. And it won't look perfect until you get it wet again. But once you needle felt just that sort of covering piece, you can put it under the water and then it will wet felt back on. But you do need to needle felt it first, otherwise the seam will kind of show up. But I don't want that there, so I'm gonna take that off. But not the end of the world, just don't wait. Make sure you go in right away, remembering where the needle broke. Okay? Okay, there she is. Here's your lovely needle felted, wet felted, then needle felted tulip soap. You're just gonna rub it all over your body. And wool is antimicrobial, so you just use it over and over and over and over again. And then when the soap is all out, though it takes, I mean, on average, these guys last, they make the soap last for like 3 months, something like that. So it's a really ultimately economical thing to do. Once that soap is gone, the soap will, or excuse me, the wool will continue to shrink with the soap. Once the soap is gone, you can kind of open it back up, or you could use some scissors. Throw in another little soap, or like end pieces of a soap, to make that the end little bits last a little bit longer. Throw that in there, and then as you use it again, it will kind of felt back together. Not perfectly, you're gonna still have a seam there, but you can keep using it as your woolly washer, or, you know, maybe you cut it open on this side and then you kind of slide your fingers in, and then you just use it as a washcloth. Or I know people who put potpourri inside of it, or a couple of drops of essential oil, and sneak those into their drawers for a little freshener.